I have often heard people saying the first year of marriage is usually the toughest one. The normal me will say reject that narrative for yourself. Oh yeah, to fear kwa. But it is true for a lot of people. You may want to equip yourself ahead of time and know what to expect, know how to address them so that you can have a different experience. And that's what this video is about. If you're new to this channel, my name is Kemi Omorogbe. I'm a content creator based in Nigeria and you are welcome to the channel. Without wasting your time, let's jump right into the video. So fresh out of marriage, people tend to want to give you your space. While that is not a bad thing for the first 1, 2 weeks, 1 month, but when the thing is prolonging to like 3 months, 4 months, and you realize that you are now on your own. I wasn't working when I got married, but my husband was. So after like 2 weeks, he had to go back to work, and then I was home. And the loneliness hit me, and then I realized, you're on your own. Neither did I feel free enough to tell my friends my new experience. It just seemed like this person had to be your only friend. And being alone, the only friend was not really available for me to be friending, right? I don't know what to call it, but I went into this phase of discovering a new part of myself. And I remember some days I will just cry and insist he comes back home. I have never been into alcohol. I didn't even used to take alcohol, but we had bottles of alcohol at home, and I remember a particular evening where I kept calling and insisting he comes back home because I just went into this emotional breakdown that day, and he couldn't understand why his newly wedded wife was behaving that way. Did I marry wrongly? That must have been what was going through his mind at that point, because I didn't even recognize myself. Okay, I don't know what I was doing. And then I was calling and insisting he comes back home, and I was crying and wailing. I think we had a misunderstanding and I just sank into that pit hole, and I felt like I couldn't talk to anybody about what I was going through. So my first point, sometimes you have unrealistic expectation of what marriage is supposed to do in your life. You feel that after marriage, nobody can tell me anything. Okay, not that anyways, but many times we expect our spouse to be our all in all. For women, I find that many times we want to focus on what we now have, but what I could have done better is to be deliberate about my past friendships. Generally, your male friends will feel that they are crossing the boundary when they try to remain friends with you. So gradually the communication will reduce. But then nothing stops you from talking to your female friends the way you have always done. Truth be told, for myself, we weren't in constant communication because some of them relocated and then I moved to another town. We weren't in constant communication even before the marriage. So there had been that gradual space. So I could have been more deliberate. If you're going to have it easier, and probably you are changing environment, create new friendships, and keep in touch with your past friends. Be deliberate about it, because the natural trend of things is that your focus is shifted to something else. You are building a new life, maybe you're setting up your home, you're trying to get pregnant if you are. Do you understand? Your attention is divided, and many times your former relationship may suffer. And also because they feel like, okay, we'll see if she still wants to be our friends. Okay, some of them even have this notion that married people don't like single friends. Do you understand? Those of them, that's not true. For me personally, it wasn't something that deliberately happened to me, but I found that gradually my other friendships, male and female friendships, they became less of my priority. These relationships are there for a reason. Don't place the entire responsibility of your happiness, of your joy on that one person, because that will be too much of a burden. Find a way to constantly keep yourself happy. Build your relationship with God. There is that part of us that craves for a divine connection. Make sure you are nurturing your relationship with God, nurturing your relationship around you, and even you by yourself. Know how to make yourself happy. Know how to enjoy silence, enjoy your own company, and also know those within your circle that you can, share things with. So at this stage, most times you begin to realize, yeah, this person is great, but he or she is not my all in all, cannot fulfill every longing in my life. And the earlier you realize this, the better for the both of you and the better for your relationship. Another thing I would like to touch on is communication. You know, when you are dating and you feel like, oh, we are so good, we talk about everything. Marriage may make you understand that, hey, you are not as good in communication like you think you are, because it is very easy to, talk about things when we are good, okay, or when you are in the heat of positive emotions, you're having feelings, and then the person offends you, and then you have a lovers fight, and then you talk about it, and that's all, and you think that is how it will continually be. To be a good communicator, you have to be able to bring yourself out of a situation and express yourself even when you don't feel like it, for the sake of peace, and doing it in a very emotionally intelligent way, considering the other person's emotion. You will know you are good in communication when you are angry and you are able to hold yourself back from talking in anger, and you are able to bring yourself out of that silence and objectively look at the situation and talk about it without pointing fingers at anyone. You're just analyzing the situation or explaining it intelligently. That's when you are good at communication. And also in communication, you have to be good at listening to what your spouse is saying. Communication is one of the biggest issues when it comes to marriage, because most misunderstandings will be resolved if you are able to communicate appropriately with each other. That's a skill you just have to master if you're going to have a lasting marriage, not even just at the beginning, but many times at the beginning of the relationship, because of where you're coming from, you're in the high of emotion, and maybe you have been able to, handle things. And then you begin to realize some things about this person. The emotions are heightened in the other direction. Will you still be able to communicate how you're feeling and to listen to what your partner is saying? I primarily used to think I was very good at communication, but I realized maybe I'm not as good as I think I was, and I had to start, unlearning certain things. I am still a work in progress, and even till now, it is something I'm still working on. And sometimes maybe you are not even good at addressing issues. You just want to sweep it under the carpet and say, let's forget about it. Just know that those things you're sweeping under the carpet, they are not gone. No. They are there, and one day your spouse will do something very little and you will overreact, and you bring, especially if you're a woman, you bring up all the past issues. You are knowing the other day you did this, outside you did that. Those issues are not gone. So it is better you address things as they are happening, so that when new ones happen, because they will continue to happen, we are human beings, you don't keep bringing back past issues and compounding the whole thing. It is better you address things. It is better you address it calmly and as soon as you can. You don't want to say, oh, I don't just want to talk about it yet, and then you're having 1 week of discord with your wife or your husband, where your chest will be beating every time you see the person. Please save your cardiovascular system, okay? Another challenge that may crop up in the first year of marriage, and most times this happens even when you are living with anybody, not just your spouse, okay? For most couples, you haven't lived together and now you are living together. There are some things you may have missed out on while courting that you begin to realize, that may even make you start questioning whether you made the right choice. Some are things relating to tidiness, just habits your spouse has that doesn't sit well with you. So men, for example, are known to be very untidy. They just come into the house to just turn the entire house upside down. Some women don't like maybe washing dishes, okay? Things you missed while courting because you haven't lived with this person. In as much as you may be close as a couple, you are different as individual persons. What I will advise on things like that is that you be patient. Know that you have your own too, because sometimes we feel like we are the most tidy persons, we are the best, and we don't even see our own fault. Know that you have your own too. So that humility should be there. And then table such issues before your spouse. Some other times it's even things like chores. Who does the cooking? Who does the grocery shopping? So examine each other's strengths and weaknesses and realize that you are now a unit. Marriage is not 50-50, it is 100-100. Both of you giving your 100% to make it work. So if one person doesn't like grocery shopping and the other person loves going to the market or loves going to supermarket, let that person handle it. Maybe this person doesn't like to cook, but he or she can do the dishes. So know each other's strengths and weaknesses and try to balance it up. And if there are things that you can't really balance up, you need to communicate all of that. That's why communication is like a very key thing in relationship, any form of relationship. Very important, because whatever comes, you know that you can face it together, you can talk about it. There's a kind of security that comes from knowing that whatever happens here, I can actually talk about it with this person. Next is handling each other's family. For us, for example, we had a rule, or not a rule, but we already kind of made that decision that we weren't going to house anybody in the first year of our marriage, because we just knew that we wanted to discover each other. We wanted to be able to make adjustments, to quarrel freely when we need to, and settle freely without any interference. And also we had to decide on what part of our income we're giving to family, also how we approach other responsibilities when it comes to family, when family places demand on us financially, how we should handle it, and also other aspects when it comes to relating to our in-laws, his in-laws, my in-laws, right? You may have to put boundaries in place on how much interference your family, your originating family, has on your marriage. Some of us are so attached to our parents, and when the Bible says, leave your parents and cleave, that is a very important part of marriage. So if you are still calling your mom or calling your dad to tell your dad or mom everything happening in your marriage, or guy, you are not ready, sister, you are not yet ready. I'm not saying you cannot talk about your challenges. Know that family can be biased. And also, because you people love each other, when you quarrel, you forgive each other, right? But when the issue extends to the other family, it doesn't settle just easily like that. When you are forgiving each other, they are still beefing you. So things don't just fizzle out like that with family. The things you can handle, please handle it within yourself. You may also have to establish boundaries when it comes to how often your siblings can visit and stay with you. If you're sponsoring anybody's education, ensure that your spouse is also comfortable with it, because what you have is now for both of you, not just only you. The mother-in-law / daughter-in-law quarrel in marriages is not compulsory, please. Don't join them. But I know some people are troublesome, so those things may still crop up. Know how to handle it wisely, because you don't want to get into some people's bad books. At the same time, you have to protect your peace of mind. And also, when there is a request or disagreement or whatever from, let's say, the wife's family, let the wife be the one communicating with the family the most, okay? Don't let your husband be the one to tell them no. They are going to take it wrongly. But if it's you telling them no, they are going to reason with you. The same thing goes for the man. So you must apply wisdom in relating to your in-laws, your family, your siblings, and all that. Apply wisdom, but don't shortchange yourselves. Don't, know that your immediate family now takes priority. That may not have registered in your mind because you are just new in the marriage, but God will grant you wisdom. But it is important that you place a bigger priority on your home. When I got married, there's this general notion that I heard over and over again that became established in my mind. That was that you don't bring a third party into your home. That's another way that people glamorize the culture of silence. And no, I'm not telling you to take every issue out. I already told you that you don't start prognosing and telling your parents or your siblings everything happening in your home. But at the same time, you don't have to handle everything yourself. My own take on that is that a cord of threefold, or is it a fold of three cord, is not easily broken. So it is important that both of you have someone you are accountable to, someone you can talk to when you're having issues. Sometimes you think your problem is the biggest problem in the world, but you don't know that it is a common challenge when it comes to relationship between males and females, because these two genders are different. The way we see things, just talk to another couple and raise some things, and you see the wife, having similar issue with the other wife, and then the guys, they have similar issues. What does that tell you? Gender affects the way we see things a lot. And sometimes you need somebody else to show you that you are okay. You didn't marry wrongly. This is not the wrong person. That you're having this challenge is not the end of the world. It is common. It has happened to me. It has happened to so person. So you need to have someone both of you can talk to every now and then when issue arises. That's why it is dangerous to marry a man or a woman who has no authority figure over their life. The one that doesn't listen to anybody. That's trouble now. That's trouble. Don't fall into that trap of thinking you have to handle everything on your own. Your wisdom is limited. But what I would not advise is taking it to your family. Like I said, they are biased. So please have someone trustworthy who is experienced, preferably a Christian marriage counselor, or who's just generally wise. There are some people that God has blessed with wisdom. Find such persons. Let him or her be the one you talk to when you have issues in your marriage. Issues you cannot handle, please. Not everything, no, please. There are things you should handle yourself. That's why marriage comes from some maturity. But many people are not even matured enough yet to go ahead and get married. There's a lot when it comes to human relationship, and you have to be wise enough to handle it before you go into marriage. So some other issues that beyond your control, talk to someone. That may just be the voice of reasoning your relationship needs. Let's talk about building sexual intimacy. The way some of us have been brought up, that's one topic we weren't taught enough. Apart from those of you that have gone haywire, because I know many of you did not marry as virgins. But hey, most of us females, or let me say some of us females, we don't know how important that is to a man. It is more important to guys, okay? That's just the truth, okay? So young wives tend to keep it in the back burner. It's only when it's extremely comfortable for me. It's only when I'm extremely not tired. Do you understand? It's only when he does this, it's only when he does. So the conditions may just be a lot for your spouse. Please listen to your spouse in this regard and don't think he's demanding too much. Just try and be understanding and know that it is more important to him. Don't use that fact against him, even though you know that, okay? You have to create a room. I know sometimes you're tired, but some other times you know that you still have energy. If not that he offended you in the afternoon. The husbands have a role to play in, preparing the mind of the female and just making them happy and emotionally sound enough. For us female as well, let us cut men some slack. I read somewhere about Power of a Praying Woman, where I can't remember clearly now, but the analogy there was that many times we wives, we are thinking, oh, he's not listening to me. Okay, I just remembered something. Oh my. So many times we are putting all those in the forefront and thinking, oh, my man is not listening to me, that's why I can't do this, that's why I can't do that. On the other hand, the man thinks you are not even considering his needs and all that. What I mean is those things you are trying to communicate, those things that you are angry about, most time they are more receptive and they will listen after sex. The reverse is the case for you. Want it to be settled before, right? So just leave that room for some understanding. Okay, I know it is difficult as a woman. I know if you are not emotionally there yet. That's why it is important for us to be able to talk about things even before we get to that stage. So what I just remembered now, I remembered attending my friend's wedding. That was before I got married. My friend Priska, I think it was a year or two before I got married. And the sermon on that day was by this man of God. And the man was basically telling us, the congregation, no, not us, he was advising the couple, the wife specifically, that if your husband is misbehaving, just call him and breastfeed him. Just call him and breastfeed him. If he's not listening to you, call him and breastfeed him. As funny as that sounds, that's actually the truth. Men need sex for their own emotional stability. Now, I advise that before marriage, you should have some communication when it comes to finances in your home. For instance, I feel like we didn't handle certain things like whose name should be on a housing document, and I know that I should have done better, okay? Those are the things that may now crop up in your first year of marriage. We had to have that conversation around finances a lot. Do we own a joint account? Of course, we had disagreement because we're coming with different ideologies when it comes to managing family finances. So some of these conversations came up over and over again in our first year of marriage till we came to a sort of resolution. And if I'm being honest, we still have some of those conversations today, but from another perspective, because we now understand how we see things and we try to create a middle ground. So once in a while when it comes up, I think we manage it better now. But that first year of marriage, it was more from a stage of, wow, like seriously? This is what you think? Wow. There are a lot of wow. No, wow. So yes, we had those reactions because we didn't settle some of these things before entering into the marriage. So those are some of the things you may still have to handle in your first year of marriage, because that's when responsibilities start coming in, joint responsibilities. And also another issue is children. I'm aware that some people get married and then they start having children right away. I advise that you may want to take 6 months, 1 year before having children. One, because of the financial implication, you may want to save up some more, and also just your emotional states. I feel like after 1 year, you know each other better outside of children. You've had that time to just love up on yourself, because children change a lot of things when it comes to relationship dynamics within the family. You are putting on a responsibility that takes the focus off the both of you. So if you have not created that close bond with each other while dating, because you have not lived with each other, right? If you haven't created that kind of close bond, I will advise that you take a minimum of 3 months. We did 6 months, thankfully, before we got pregnant, even though we started trying at 3 months. But please decide on what works for both of you. Please don't take contraceptive. Use other means. You can make use of condom. You can make use of withdrawal method. I don't advise you use contraceptive. Just avoid contraceptive, because I've heard gory stories of people who were on some kind of hormonal contraceptive and then it became really tough to conceive after withdrawing the contraceptive. So to be on the safer side, just use the natural method. It's not as if you cannot handle having a child, right? You just want to take your time. So if it happens, fine. Just stick with the natural method. If you're married and any other thing comes to mind, drop it in the comment section, because I really didn't script this video. I'm just talking off my head. So I may have missed 1 or 2 things. I would appreciate it if you drop your own opinions in the comment section. Thank you very much for watching. Once again, my name is Kemi Omorogbe. See you in my next video. Bye.